Gravitas, powered by Skoda, made of smart imagination.
With the Taliban in Kabul, global jihad has a new capital, a safe house where terrorists can plot, hide and rally. It's quite similar to 2014 when the Islamic State captured Mosul in Iraq. Suddenly jihadists had a country, they had an oil economy, they had plenty of abandoned equipment. Mosul was a big scoop for global jihad. Afghanistan is even bigger. We're talking about 652,000 square kilometers of land, untapped minerals worth $1 trillion and an arsenal of American weapons. No wonder the jihadists are upbeat. On Tuesday, Al-Qaeda released this statement on the Taliban's return. They're calling it a congratulatory note, but frankly, it's a dire warning. Let me quote from this message for the Taliban. This is what the Al-Qaeda says. We congratulate the Islamic Ummah on its historic victory that has been achieved at the hands of the resolute Afghan nation. A symbol of resistance against invading imperialist powers, Afghanistan is undoubtedly an impregnable fortress of Islam. Well drafted for Al-Qaeda. It's also jarring. Terror groups giving each other shout-outs on social media. That's the first part of the Al-Qaeda statement. The second part is even more worrisome. You see, the Taliban may have accomplished their mission, but the jihadists elsewhere have not. Their ambitions are global. So let me go back to the statement, and this is what it says. Dear Ummah, it's time for you to prepare for the next stage of the struggle. This historic victory will open way for Muslim masses to achieve liberation from despotic rule of tyrants who have been imposed by the West on the Islamic world. It goes on. And pay attention, liberate the Levant, Somalia, Yemen, Kashmir, and the rest of the Islamic lands from the clutches of the enemies of Islam. So much for a congratulatory note. This is a war cry, a renaissance of global jihad, and it is right at India's doorsteps. The Al-Qaeda says it wants to liberate Kashmir. Does the Taliban agree? On paper, no. Last year, they promised to cut off all ties with the Al-Qaeda, and recently they've promised to not interfere in Kashmir. But remember, these are the Al-Qaeda's promises, not worth very much. Here's what intelligence reports say. Jihadists from Lashkar-e-Toiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed are already in Afghanistan. They're getting weapons and training. In fact, Jaish leaders met with the Taliban last month in Kandahar. They wanted to help in quote-unquote India-centric operations. We don't know how the Taliban responded. But here's what we do know. These jihadists are a wounded lot. They're still recovering from the war on terror, which means their capacity is limited. Right now, they cannot strike the US or Europe. So what can they do? They can certainly target the neighborhood. India is preparing for this eventuality. Reports say the Prime Minister has constituted a high-level group to monitor Afghanistan. And this includes the Foreign Minister, the National Security Advisor, and other senior officials. One of their objectives is to ensure that Afghanistan remains terror-free. That's a tall ask. It's going to be run by what used to be called a terror group. This new jihad will not stop in India or South Asia, though. It is extending to new frontiers. One of them is Southeast Asia. The entire region is on the lookout for Taliban and ISIS sympathizers. Let me tell you what each country is doing. In Indonesia, anti-terrorism corps are sweeping through social media. They arrested 58 terrorists last month. They were planning an attack on the 17th of August, Indonesia's Independence Day. The Philippines has signed intelligence sharing agreements with its neighbors. The government says local extremism is a big problem. Their concern is the southern island of Mindanao. For half a century, the government has been fighting Islamists on this island. Afghanistan is not good news for the government there. Malaysia had a first-hand experience with Afghan radicalization. Last month, the Taliban detained 2 Malaysian nationals, both allegedly linked to ISIS Khorasan. Clearly, Asia is bracing for a new wave of jihad, and this is not just about weapons and funding. This is about setting a precedent. The Taliban toppled a democratically elected government. What did the world do? Practically nothing. This will embolden terror groups across Asia, make them feel invincible. What can governments do in response? Waiting for the Americans is not an option. The war on terror is all but over as far as the US is concerned. Asian countries will have to coordinate. I'm talking about intelligence sharing here. I'm talking about diplomatic pressure, joint operations. For most of the last decade, West Asia was the capital of global jihad. It's now shifted to Afghanistan, slap bang in the middle of Central and East Asia. If the world does not prepare, the Afghan emirate could become a caliphate. Not today, not tomorrow, but gradually. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.
Gravitas, powered by Skoda, made of smart imagination.